This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Good morning, everyone. Shalom Aleichem. We're continuing in Mishna Berura Daf Hashavua. We're learning the Mishnas Sofrim. We're up to Ois Pei Peshuta, the final pay, the straight pay. Let's bring up the Maramakoimais, the diagrams. Okay, here we go. Pei Peshuta. I have to say, just as a hekdama, that my neshama is very much enjoying this limud. You know, when you think about how Hashem created the world with the aleph beis, you see all the details of every letter, and if you throw off one letter, it destroys the whole world. In the final pay, you have a final chaf, and you have an upside down vav, and they're roundeds and they're corners, and you don't want to make a corner flat, then you could be flattening the whole world. You could be making an earthquake. Anyway, Mishna Sofrim says like this: Ois pei peshuta. Top right side, it's a corner, it's not rounded. Okay, it comes to a point. It should be long enough that if you bend it, there's enough of a leg where you can make a vertical side and a horizontal underneath. If you bend it. Over the Yeved, now this is key for enda letters. The way the Mishna Sofrim interprets the Pri Megadim says that if the leg is the length of a yud, it's kasher. Clearly, the Mishna Sofrim says the length of the yud means past the nekuda primus, meaning past the upside down vav. It can't mean like in diagram 4, because that has no tsura of a final pay at all. It means a yud past the nekuda primus. With the evidem yesh berego meaning mikeneged makom nekuda lamata. If there is in the right leg opposite the place of nekuda kimloy yud, the length of a yud dai bekach. That's enough. Now the Mishnah says that Pri Megadim kasav stam kimloy yud mehayarach. Pri Megadim says stam, it should be a yud long from the leg. Ve'akavana kasher kasavna. What he means is a yud past the upside down vav, the nekuda primus. Dilav hachi, otherwise, ein tzuras ois olav. It does not have the tzura of the ois at all. Nevertheless, now this is a chiddush. Im nimtza came b'sefer Torah. Let's say you made a little bit of a shortened endafay, like in diagram 3, where you got your yud, okay? Va'afilu b'tfilin, even in tefillin, l'charchila b'vadei chayav l'sakin ois, you still got to fix it. Meaning, even though you have kimlo yud after the nekuda primus, you should elongate it. Ulahashlimay kedin, make it long enough that you could bend over the leg, that it could have been a pei kefufa. I shaloi kesidra, no, ve'ein bazem mishum shaloi kesidra. Why? Kivan de beloy hatikun hu kasher. Because it's kosher without fixing it. Anytime a letter is kosher, you could fix it. Now we said an even bigger chiddush. We don't have explicit proof, let's say by the hay, where anytime a letter has Tzuras ha'ois, it's just not fulfilling a halachic requirement, you could also fix it. Not 100% sure. And otherwise, why didn't the Mishna Berura say you're allowed to fix it because it has a Tzuras ha'ois? I guess he's saying better than that. He's saying it's more than it has its size. It's totally kosher. It's just not. It's not mehudar. Okay. Va'asiyas nekuda pei, making the inner dot of the pei. That's how it's referred to, which is the upside down vav. V'uktza, and remember the thorn, because really, in order to have the full image of the upside down vav, you need a thorn on the top left side. Hu hakol kumay bechfufa. It's just like a bent over pei. Another thing you got to watch out is not to do like in diagram 7, where you make the vav sticking out, because then it looks like a glorified tuf. Let's say this nakuda is not touching the roof. Or let's say you stuck the nakuda more toward the interior, like in diagram 8 bays, and not to the end, Hakol dinoi kanal b'chufa. The din is like mentioned by the bent over letter. Okay, now we're up to the ois tzadi. Tzadi kefufa. Okay, so I guess technically it's not a tzaddik. Even though in yeshiva, I think in cheder they taught us tzaddik kuf. It's tzadi. People think, no, that's how my grandmother said it, but it's tzaddik. No, she was right. It's a tzadi, not a tzaddik. Okay. But I do think that the Gemara darshans in Shabbos that there are two types of tzaddikim. So I think there is a legitimate interpretation of the letter as referring to a righteous person. Tzaddik pashut, tzaddik kafuf. I believe the Gemara in Shabbos says maybe daf kuf dalet. Anyway, the Gemara says like this: Ois tzaddik kfufa, tuanase k'maynun kfufa v'yira gaba. A tzaddik, you know what? A tzaddik gives a yid a piggyback. He gives him a lift. He's a nun, and he gives a ride to the yid on his back. He picks him up and he puts him on his shoulder. So basically, it's a nun. It's a nun with a yud on top. The right head, which is a yud, which is the yud on top of the nun, should be facing slightly upward, like in diagram 1 and in diagram 2. Fine. V'yidabek regel hayud dibuk toiv b'tzavar hatzadi. You're going to attach the yud with a very good attachment to the neck of the tzadi. Like if you look over here in diagram 3, it's not just like a hairline connection. It has a little bit more body than that. It should be in middle of the neck. You don't want it to be too low. For example, if you're going to do it like in number 4, it's going to look like an ayin. The second head here is going to be in like diagram 5, it's a zayin. But the zayin, it's a little bit tilted toward the right. We'll see the reason for that is so you could get another letter next to it. Noita lekan lekan, turning to this way and that way. Okay, now look at that. This is important. When it says noita lekan lekan, it means the head of the zayin should be on both sides, meaning the neck of the zayin should come out of its middle, not out of the side. The neck should not come out of the edge of the head. Only from the middle. Like the nun earlier. The neck should be a little bit thick. Okay, look at number 7. A thick neck. A tzaddik has to have a thick neck. It's not good to be too thin-skinned. He has to have a thick neck. V'orach tzas, a little bit long. Mutal tzad yamin, it's tilted toward the right. Why? Because you want to be able to put a letter next to it, and you don't want the head of the zayin to be in the way. Okay. The lower base, the bottom, I don't remember this. The bottom base, like number 9, should be drawn a little bit toward the left, more than its two heads. Meaning it should go past the left head of the tzadi, sort of in the same way the base of the nun goes past its head. The agula lamata should be slightly rounded below. All letters that have a final letter, when they're in their form of being bent over, they're rounded on the bottom. The mem, the nun, the tzadi, the chaf, the pei. The gimel tagin al rosh hasmali, 3 crowns on its left head. If the yud is not touching the nun, like in diagram 12, ayin b'simen lamed beis sif chaf hey. Look in simen lamed beis, sif chaf hey. L'chayra, it's not good. And not only is it not good, if you fix it, it's shaloi kasidran, the Mechaber says. So if the yud is not attached, it's a problem. Fine, weiter. V'im harashim noigim yoisrim makam dibukam. Now look at this. Like in diagram 13. If the heads are connected more than just the thin connector, but the whole body is connected, the hainu shei nikar harosh, you can't recognize the head. Ela kav shav, it's one straight line. Ayin le'el b'soif ois aleph. Look earlier at the end of ois aleph. So I did take that liberty this morning. I didn't remember. What is the halacha? If it's more than just this thin hairline connection where the head is not recognizable, the halacha is it's puzzle. The halacha is it's puzzle, and there is an eitzah that you could make the head thicker. We said by the aleph, you could make the head thicker. If you want to remember, that's in diagram 13 on page 273. But you could only make the head thicker, Rabbi Isai, if you didn't write further on in Tefillah and Mezuzos. But if you already wrote further on, that would be Shaloi Keseder. Okay, Ois Tzadi, Tzuras Ois Tzadi Peshuta, the straight tzaddik. There are a lot of tzaddikim, it's not so easy to find the straight tzaddik, But here we go, the straight tzaddik. Ois Tzadi Peshuta, Yia Rasha Kamai Bishal Kefufa. Its head is like the bent over one, but here's the great chap. The great chap is that while a regular tzaddik kefufa is a yud on a nun, but it's a yud on a nun kefufa, and the final tzadi, the tzadi pshuta, is basically a yud, or it looks more like a vav on a nun pshuta. So basically, instead of the straight tzaddik is a straight nun giving a piggyback ride to a vav. The tzaddik kefufa is a bent over nun giving a piggyback ride to a yud. The way the Mishna Sofrim describes it, it's a yud and a nun. Mendy, write down this question that actually the picture looks more like a vav and a nun. Now, if you were to measure how many kulmasim it is, to me, it looks more like a vav on top of a nun than a yud on top of a nun. Va'ach minun pshuta. The only thing is, it's not a bent over nun. It's a straight nun. Why didn't the Mishnah Sofrim say it's not a yud? It's a vav. Rabbi Yeager is going to check his books. Alkain gufa, alkain gufa pashat. Therefore, its body is straight. Kamay oisnam pshuta. The shiur arka, the length sheter lamata, that it should descend midibu karoshim l'chadchila with shiuroi lasted tzadi kefufa. Okay, l'chadchila, it should be long enough that you could look in diagram 3, the leg should be long enough that if you bent it over, you can make a tzadi kefufa. But b'diavad, we're going to bring in the same pri megadim that it should be, what? At least the length of a yud below its second head. The Yavad pasuk pri megadim, shem hoitzing makam dibu kayud l'nun, rak kamloi yud kasher. B'diavad, it will be okay if you just have the length of a yud. Aval im loinish kamloi yud. If you don't have a yud, sarachian. That's a problem. Im nagu harashim yosem makam dibukam. If, let's say, like in diagram 5, you have more than the place of their attachment. Oisha nagu zabazet, where the two heads are touching. Oisha nifsik ben ayud lahanun, or they're severed. Dinoi kamay bechlufa v'chanal. The din is like if it's bent over, like we said earlier. Okay, Rabbi, so we're going to hold it here. So, Bez Hashem, tomorrow, what's tomorrow? Wednesday? Kuf Reish, and part of Shin. And then Thursday, Tav. And then we can make a siyum on the Aleph Beis. Baruch Hashem. Okay, thank you everybody for joining. Have an amazing day. Dayan.
Rabbi, it could be it's a yud versus a vav because it has a little tag on the top and the vav doesn't.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.